Hello guys, welcome back to another video. In this video I wanted to showcase everything new inside of the survival game course remastered in Unreal Engine 5.4. So basically, if you haven't heard about my multiplayer survival game course, the course is being re-released or remastered in Unreal Engine 5.4 with a lot of new features such as controller input support, data assets, first and third person mode, new rehauled items, and a bunch of updates and changes to things like the crafting system and much more. The course itself already comes with a ton of content. For example, we create things like an inventory system, crafting system, building system, harvesting system, clans, and tribe system, so you can raid other players. You can place down structures that have storage containers so you can access them and put items in. You have a drag and drop inventory system so you can drag items around in your inventory. You can equip them on your hotbar. There's tons of stuff that we already create in this course itself, and I'm remastering it inside of Unreal Engine 5.4 with a ton of new future updates, and it's also free for students who already purchased the original course. Also, I want to interrupt real quickly and tell you that if you don't want to follow the entire course, if you just want the finished product or the game that we create, I'm currently selling the complete project source files and the completed game on my website. So if you don't want the hassle of following through the entire course to create the game, you can just purchase the complete project instead. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. I do recommend getting the course instead because it does show you thoroughly how to create everything from scratch. You will learn a lot more from creating it from scratch rather than getting the completed project. But of course, that is completely up to you. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the new changes. So right off the bat here, if I play, the main change is I've added first and third person support. So if I scroll in, I'm in the first person mode. If I scroll out, I'm in the third person mode. We've added new locomotion. So we have strafing left, strafing right, backwards, all of that stuff. We also added things like jumping, crouching, and also prone. So we have all these new animation states, and it all works in first person as well. And also it works if you're holding certain items. Now let's actually showcase the new item system. So currently let's actually play this as two characters. That way you guys can see the new rehaul of our items. So if I press I can open up my inventory. And if we head over to the crafting tab, right now I have admin mode enabled. So I can see all of the items in my inventory. So things that you would not normally be able to craft in the player inventory, like rifles, those things can only be crafted in stuff like the advanced workbench. But since I have admin mode enabled, I can add them through this little menu. So I'm going to add a stone pickaxe and just equip this. So it's equipped for first person and third person. So if I scroll out to third person, or in the first person, you can see that we can look around. And actually, the first person uses true FPS, or true first person, which means that I could look down, and we're using the same character mesh for both first and third person. So we're not having two separate meshes for that. Also, on the other screen, you can see that our aim offset is replicated. Or basically, we have an aim offset where if the player looks up, you can see that it updates the character mesh and it shows where exactly the player is looking at. Now, this is also helpful for when we swing our hatchet because you can see that we swing it wherever we're looking, and also do things like harvest such rock. Okay. Now that is the improved item system. We've added those aim offsets. We've also added other different improvements to other items like our rifle. Let's go ahead and equip this. Now the rifle also works in first and third person, while all of the items do. So you'll notice that the animations are set up for both to work in both conditions. You can see that our aim offset is also replicated, so depending on where I look. What we've also added for third person is this camera offset. So you can see that the camera is offsetted if I equip the rifle. The camera will be offsetted on the right of the character. But also one major improvement is we've added a new aiming system. So if you right click, that will actually aim and zoom in. Now if you go into the first person, if you aim, that will actually aim down sights. So you can see we can actually aim like this, and we can also aim in the third person. So when you aim, it will actually slow down your character's movement speed. And we can fire our rifle like so, or we can fire it by aiming down sights. So our new aiming system is built into really whatever weapons we want to have this aiming system to have. So we've added it for things like a rocket launcher. So I go and add my rocket launcher and equip that. You can see I can now aim like this, or I could aim down sights if I go into the first person and aim down sights. So again, this is set up for both first person and third person point of view. And we have that new aiming mechanic for procedural aim. I've also improved other different items like the bow and the spear. So the spear, for example, we can jab and attack, do a little attack there, and that will do damage to the player. But the major improvement over this is you can now throw the spear, so it has a new charge back animation. So if I right click, that will charge back the spear. And now that I have it charged back, I can let go of the right mouse button, and that will throw the spear and impale, whoever is on the other end. So the spear has that new throw logic, and also it's using the same sort of charge back logic for our bow. So if I hold my bow, and if I hold down the left mouse button, it will make my character movement slow. It will charge back the bow. You can see I'm now holding it back. If I let go, it will fire the arrow and reset the animation state. So I was using a new animation state system for things like our bow and spear, where it requires that charge back of the animation to showcase, charging back the bow or the spear. Now let me actually show you the bow item again one more time, just so you can see and appreciate the animations. You can see I can draw back the bow, and the animations actually line up this time. And I can aim. You can even right click to zoom in, so it has that aiming logic. And we can let go and fire the arrow. I have the bow reloading set up, I just don't have the arrows in my inventory, so that's why I added 2 there. But those are some of the major improvements over the different items. Now another main thing I wanted to note is you can now play the game in single player, listen server, or as dedicated server. So if I play as standalone, and you can see that it says standalone up here at the top, and everything works seamlessly. So I can pick berries, I can add any sort of item and equip it. Everything works in standalone. There's no bugs when I exit out. And I can even play this as listen server. So if I wanted to play 2 players connected to a listen server, I'd hit play. And you can see both players here are connected to the listen server. We have client 1 over here and the server in the other screen. So this works for both listen server and dedicated server. So if you play as clients and hit play, this will play as 2 clients connected to a dedicated server. So the way that we have everything set up in the course, it will work for both single player, multiplayer, whether that is a listen or dedicated server. And so now the game isn't just hard-coded to multiplayer only. You can play it in the single player mode. Now there are other different things that have been rehauled in the course, things like the crafting system, and also we have things like engrams. So engrams is a brand new system added in the course in the 5.4 remaster, where you can now learn specific items, and those engrams will be updated in your crafting tab. So currently I have the admin mode enabled, so let me go ahead and just disable that real quick. So now I have the admin mode disabled. If I head over to the crafting tab, currently I only have 1 item here. So you can see I have the stone hatchet engram learned. So if I head over to the engrams, you can see that the stone hatchet is the only engram that I currently have learned. So if I go ahead and actually learn the stone pickaxe, if I select and learn that, you'll see that I have learned the stone pickaxe engram. And now if I head back over to my crafting tab, we can see that I have learned this engram and crafting recipe. So you can see that the required items are 10 wood and 5 stone. So let me add some resources real quick using my little cheat. So I press the T key, I can add some items in here. So now I have 100 wood and 100 stone. If I hover over these items, you can see that we have 100 wood in our inventory and 100 stone. I can select this to craft it. Now we'll go ahead and add the crafted item or the stone pickaxe to my inventory. Now, if I go back to my crafting tab, if I hover over my items here, you can see that it automatically updates the amount of resources that we have left in our inventory. We have 90 wood and 95 stone. And also this will account for multiple items. So if I add even more stone and wood by pressing my debug key, so now I have 190 wood and 195 stone. If I head back over to my crafting tab, you can see that the numbers update. So this takes into account however much items I have in my inventory, and we can see it in the required items right here. Now our engram system also works with our leveling system. So currently I'm level 1, and I need to get 15 experience to get level 2. And if I unlock level 2, that will unlock all of these engrams right here. Currently it's black and grayed out, so I can't select or learn these. But if I go ahead and go up to this rock and hit it, I'll go ahead and level me up 2 levels because the leveling system gives me 25 experience. And you can see I'm now level 3, in which case if I head over to my engrams tab, I have unlocked all of these under the level 2 tier, things like the boots, the mask, pants, and shirt. So now I can actually select and learn these new engrams, as well as a spear. You can see that we have the notification up here that we learned those engrams. If I head back over to the crafting tab, we now have these new items in our crafting tab. Now I haven't updated the recipe for things like the armor, so you can see that it costs about 10 wood to craft these. But essentially you could add your own crafting recipes, your own custom items. You can add stuff like fiber, cloth, any sort of resource. You can really add it and make it as a required item, and essentially customize it to your liking. Now, one of the huge improvements in this course is we've added controller support. So if I go ahead and just play this and move my controller around, so now I'm using my Xbox controller. What you're going to notice right off the bat is all of the icons down on the hotbar change depending on the input type. So currently I'm using the controller. If I go back to my mouse and keyboard, you can see that it showcases the hotkeys, keys 1 through 8. If I head back to my controller, you can see it switches back to our hotbar. Now, a neat thing about this is that all of the inventory icons, you can see we have these icons right here. It will showcase all of the icons depending on the input you have associated. So because I have the controller, you can see that we have the A button. So I can switch between the crafting tab and the inventory tab. You can see I can hover over things like the different items to craft. It'll show me double press A to craft and all that stuff. Now let's actually add some wood to my inventory, and let's go ahead and craft the stone hatchet. And if I double click on the item, it will automatically equip it to the first item on my hotbar. So these are some hotkeys that we set up for our controller. We can also do stuff like split stack or split 1 by pressing X. And these are just some simple hotkeys for things in our inventory if you use the controller. Now for our hotbar, if I want to equip that item, I press the D-pad left, that will equip it. If I press it again, that will de-equip the item. Now we also have other controls like to toggle into the first or third person mode. And we can also do things like crouch. And if I hold down this button, I can go into prone, or if I can go back into the crouch or the idle walk run. So all the controls can be set up for controller. Even down in the bottom right, you can see that we have the X, Y, B, and A. So let's say I wanted to equip this item to any other slot in my hotbar. I actually do that by rearranging it. So if I go to my inventory, and if I go to my hotbar, and if I select this item and move it over to here, I can actually rearrange items in my hotbar or in my inventory using the controller. But as you can see, if I want to use that hotbar item in the X, Y, B, or A slots, I have to hold down the left trigger and press the X, and that will go ahead and allow me to equip items or de-equip items in those hotbar slots. So this is using the enhanced input system, using combinations on the controller by holding left trigger and pressing on those buttons to be able to give us more functionality out of the controller buttons. Since there's only a limited amount of buttons on the controller itself, you kind of have to get creative with the way that you have your input set up. Again, this will work for the keyboard mouse. So if I go back to my keyboard mouse and press 5, I can equip it like so. So it's completely seamless, and this is using the enhanced input system along with the Common UI plugin, which is a fairly new plugin that supports things like cross-platform input. So whether you're using an Xbox or PlayStation controller or keyboard and mouse, you can also even set this up for things like mobile input if you wanted to support something like that. So there's a lot of things you can do with the Common UI plugin, including having these platform-specific input icons like the Xbox controller show up when you plug in your controller to the game. Now, the neat thing about the controller is that it works for interaction. So you can see that we have press Y to interact. So if I switch back over to my keyboard, you can see it says press E to interact. If I press E, that will interact with it. If I switch over to my controller, it says again, press Y to interact. If I press Y, I can interact with it. Now, these are the different interactable objects. So these different structures are structures that you can interact with and put items in or craft certain items. So the crop plot allows you to plant certain crops and to grow them. The storage box, I press Y to open that up, allows you to store items in the storage box itself. And the advanced workbench, this has a crafting tab. So if you head over to the crafting tab, currently I don't have any engrams learned, but essentially you can craft any advanced items like metal foundations, things like the rifle, the rocket launcher, all that stuff is crafted in the advanced workbench. And of course, to craft the advanced workbench, you have to first craft the basic workbench. Also, you have things like the crafting tab and the crafting bench right there. The smelting forge allows you to smelt certain items. So if I go ahead and equip my hatchet here, and let's go ahead and get some iron ore. Let's access the forge. And if we go ahead and transfer over our wood and also our metal ore, let's go ahead and do light fire. So if we light the fire, that will go ahead and turn on the forge. So what the forge will do is it will smelt down every 15 or 30 seconds. It will take 2 of the iron ore and turn it into an iron ingot. So as you can see, it smelted that iron ore down to an iron ingot. And now with this iron ingot, you can use this in your crafting recipes to craft things like iron tools or any other type of structure, or even things like metal structures. You can craft that using this iron ore. So the forge structure is very simple. It will just craft and smelt down these different resources. So we can actually turn off the forge by going back over to the forge and clicking the light fire. That will turn it off, and it will stop smelting those items. The same thing works for things like the cooking pot. So let me actually take my wood and put it back in my inventory. Let's go over to the cooking pot. The cooking pot will cook meat. So currently, let me actually add some meat real quick. Okay, so now I have some raw meat here. And if we walk up to the cooking pots, I can put in some fuel, some wood, as well as some raw meat. Click the light fire button. And after 15 or so seconds, we should see some cooked meat appear into this slot in this cooking pot. So it should take a little bit of time here, but as you can see, it added that cooked meat. Now you can see it consumed 1 wood and 1 raw meat and converted that into 1 cooked meat, which the player can then actually consume to regain food as well as health. So you can completely customize the stats that the consumables will affect. So if you wanted to create your own custom items that will only affect things like health or only affect things like food or only water, you can create those specific types of items. Now, one thing I want to highlight in this course is the use of data assets. So everything in this course is designed using data assets. Everything is data driven. So we have first our primary data assets. So we have data assets for things like our engrams, for our harvesting resources, our item recipes, crafting recipes, consumable effects, buildable structures, and our item info. And so if I actually show you the actual data assets, if I go to data asset items, say if I go to resources and open up my data asset wood, essentially you can see all of the information about this item. So you can see the item ID, the icon, the name, the description, everything that you need to know about this item, everything is stored in data assets. So that is a wood item. I can go to our equipables and check out the data asset assault rifle. So here you can see the icon right here, the name. This one actually has a reference to the blueprint class since this is an equipable that the player can equip. So that's the actual blueprint class that has the 3D model and all that stuff. But as you can see, everything is stored in a data asset. So everything is data driven. And this also works for things like our armor. So you can see our armor items are also in data assets. And also things like our crafting system. So the item recipes, you can see we have all the different recipes for the different structures. So we have things like our advanced workbench recipes, basic workbench, cooking pot. So if I go into my cooking pot recipe, you can see I have that data asset cooked meat recipe. So if I open this up, basically this will show us the item name that we can craft, item ID, the required items. So if I expand this, this will have the required items to cook this cooked meat. And then the final reference to the cooked meat data asset that we'll add to our inventory. For other items, like for example, our player inventory, if I were to open, say, our stone pickaxe recipe, you can see this is what the recipe looks like. We have the crafting icon and the required items. You can see we have 10 wood and 5 stone to craft the stone pickaxe. Again, everything is just using data assets in this course. Now, there's a lot more other things and features that we create in this course that I haven't shown off in this video. If you want to see the full feature list, you can go to the website. You can see all of the different things that we create in this course. But just to showcase all of the new systems that we create, that's why I created this video, just to showcase the controller input, first and third person, some of the improvements over the different items, and pretty much all the major changes to expect. So if you haven't picked up the course already, I recommend you do. I will be raising the price of the course later on. And if you are a student who has already purchased the course or the original course, you should have access to the remastered course for free. So if you are one of those students who has completed the original course, feel free to share a comment down below what you thought of the original course or to leave a little review in the comments. And maybe it'll help someone who is watching this video who is trying to decide whether or not they want to actually purchase the course. Just let them know what you thought overall. And yeah, check out the course on my website, smartpoly.teachable.com. I'll leave a link to it in the description below. But that is pretty much it for this video. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next one.